afternoon, everyone. Lovely to have you back. So today I'm going to analyze the Scoia'tael Homecoming video. Now, the video was 5 minutes and they talked a lot about how leaders were implemented into the game, from concept art to 3D models to motion capture into the game. I'm not going to talk about that. If you want to watch that, I do recommend watching their video. I'm going to focus on what we can see regarding the game and what we can infer from what we can see regarding the game. It's all about Scoia'tael, so a lot of new information here. I'm going to disappear as per the suggestions of the last video. So first thing is, Malayan is a 4 strength gold card, and she's got the primary category of elf. She is also an epic card, we can see by this, and that probably means, as it makes sense, she came from a silver, so she'll probably cost the silver value to craft as well. She has a deploy ability. If placed on the melee row, she does 4 damage to an enemy, and we see some engine cards later on which gain value over time, and we saw the Vran earlier, and these are about 3 or 4 value, it seems, to start off at. So 4 strength removal could be pretty good for your basic bronze engines. Probably not the best, I think, but she's got the option to remove an engine card by the seams of things, unless they trigger straight away. However, if she's placed on the range row, she damages 4 enemies by 1. And I think this is quite a unique distinction, that she damages 4 enemies by 1. Because it seems like she can't stack her value onto the same enemy. She has to hit 4 different units. I don't think we should underestimate how powerful stacking your damage is. Things like Mitre Bracker is really powerful if you're trying to level for Scorch. So the fact she has to hit 4 units is worse of an ability. She has to hit 4 different things. However, there is some applications. I mean, we know what Monster Nest does now. It spawns 4 1-strength Arrakis, so you could use this and destroy all those straight away and deny consumptions and other triggers. So she's got the flexibility of removal or, you know, damage that might remove smaller things. Now, her overall value is 8, which might seem a little low for a gold when we've seen some others. However, maybe they're balancing it based on epics and legendary, and maybe she doesn't cost many provisions. So there's a lot of things we can't necessarily say that's a good value, but you know, 8 does seem a little low to me, but again, we can't quite say. So in the bottom right hand corner, we can see the illustrations about. This is an illustration done by Lorenzo Mastroianni, I think, maybe, probably not. But that's great. You know, it gives credit to the artist, and if you want to find more of their artwork on maybe ArtStation, then you now know their names, which is just a great thing. I'm really glad that's back. So here we have the Scoia'tael board. It's a lot brighter, looks nicer, I think, you know, rather than the murky monster one. There's still definitely some tree shadow here. It doesn't seem to be going over the cards, though. The cards are quite bright, which is nice. Now, we can see we've got a 3D model here of Philavendrel, and we've got a 3D model here of Ethne, and they look reasonably good, a lot better than the monster ones did. I think the monster ones might have been improved. We saw a little bit of a leak on Reddit. Okay, and it doesn't look like necessarily the strength per row and total strength has been changed. It definitely hasn't been put in onto the board to align with the rows. However, it does look like the symbols are a little darker now. So maybe they pop out a little bit more, but it might just be the darkness of the monster border was sort of blending it in. But they definitely look like they pop out a little bit more now. We look in the top left, it looks like the icon for the maximum hand size has changed. It's now a card with a 9 on it. And we've got these symbols here, 0 and 1. I think we might be able to see what they are later, and they're not necessarily the rank as I thought they were. I don't think you can be rank 0 anyway. So these are actually something else, and we'll go on to that later. I want to just talk about this particular card here. This is quite an important card here, because this is the very start of the game. No rounds have passed. Both players have 9 cards in hand. You start with 10, and they've both got 1 card on the board. It's Pavel Berger's turn, and he's about to play Pavko Gale. As he does so, he's got 8 cards in hand, right? So this basically says that it was Pavko Gale, or Berger, who went first, and then Ethne went second, and now it's Berger's turn again. In which case, if this is the very first turn of the game, how did this card, which is a 1 strength unit, does 4 damage, which we'll see later, how did that become 5 strength? The only answer I have, considering this is the very first card that's played, is the leader card. The leader card must be able to be played as well as a card. It basically would indicate that they are an order ability. Or she buffs them passively. I don't imagine that's true because that's 4 buff. That's insane. So she must have an order ability to buff by 4. Because that's the only way that could get onto the board at 5 strength. Because it would come down as 1 strength, which I must say is a terrible, terrible thing. And also, if they do 1 strength 4 removal, why is Olgierd on full strength? Olgierd is on full strength because his order ability, which has a cooldown of 1, must be to reset his strength. For what purpose? Self-damage? Or maybe to absorb weather and then you can greatsword yourself back up to standard on a cooldown? Okay, they're my assumptions. I would like to comment upon this now. He's about to play Pavko Gale onto the melee row, and the signal that this is going to happen is this line. In current Gwent, you get like a little half-faded hologram of where the card is and what the card looks like on the board, and I do like that over this. This line seems a bit strange to me, so I thought that was just a negative, I would say, about this. Okay, but he's going to play Pavko Gale. Like that. They've got a little bit of an animation when they pop onto the board, as you can see. Pavko Gale is a 6 strength gold epic Scoia'tael card. Okay, and he's got an order, damage an enemy unit by 1, and it's got a cooldown of 1. Now, as soon as you place him onto the board, he's worth 6 value because of summoning sickness that we learned in a different video, which is indicated by the ZZZ. It means he can't use his ability this turn. So he's 6 straight away. If we think about back to Malayan that we saw earlier, she won't be able to remove him, at least on her own. There might be orders that can do it with some help. But it means that if he's getting about the same value as Malayan, he would need to be on the board for another 2 turns to do 1 damage to get up to 8 value. And then maybe you can get a bit higher and a bit higher if you can protect him with spells and stuff, potions. So he might gain some decent value. He's definitely a nice engine card. An example of a gold engine card. I guess you might say we've seen 2 cards now, Malayan and Pavko Gale. I think there's definitely a aura of basicness about these. I mean, if we look at both of them, they've got a nice flexibility and some nice abilities here, but really all they are is 4 strength do damage, 6 strength do damage in different ways. And while that's good, I think some people are going to have issues with the feeling of basicness with some of these. We've still got plenty of cards to look at, so let's not dive too much into that right now. I think that's everything I want to talk about here. I guess, actually, I wouldn't mind talking about this particular statue here. The perspective doesn't look nearly as bad with this one as it did with the monsters. That looks like that's pretty decent perspective, I think. One thing you'll notice is just about to end his turn, okay, because he can still activate abilities. He has to press end turn when he wants. But when it's your turn, your leader sort of goes into like an active idle animation. And when it's not your turn, your leader turns off their active idle animation, sort of, or goes into like a non-important one, and the other one will activate. And you'll see that here. End turn, Philivandrel puts his sword away, and Ethne gets her bow out. Okay, as you can see here. So next thing, we've seen a lot of cards on the board. Again, we can't really see what they do. We know some of them have got orders, which may have charges, they may have repeatable abilities. We can't really tell. Okay, but what we're looking at here is that the leaders follow the mouse, and it seems to be only your leader follows your mouse, and maybe the opponent's leader follows their mouse, possibly. Well, that looks like it must be a neutral card then, because that's not a normal card that you would have in this particular faction. So interesting. So here we can see we have Alzor's Thunder. It's going to do at least 5 damage. It will kill this unit. We don't know if it does 6, but it's a special card, bronze, and it does at least 5 damage, which again is decent because it removes engine cards. This card is an engine card. It'll gain value over time. But we can also see the Blue Mountain Elite. This is a bronze Scoia'tael card. It's got a primary category of elf and has the deploy ability, damage an enemy by 4 if it is the only unit on the row. Okay, so we know, and we'll see that in a moment when it zaps it, that the Blue Mountain Elite is a 1 strength card. Okay, So it's a 1 strength, deal 4 damage card. So a very risky card, but again, 4 value might be really good removal for those engines, but it's quite a risky card. If they place down multiple units in a single turn, like Monster Nest spawns 4, then it would just be a 1 strength card. So really, really risky. But again, for bronze, the average value being 5 here. Okay. Now, if we just go back a little bit, there's more we can say here. So when he's choosing, we can see that we've now got a really nice thin blue target reticule, which I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that. And also these really nice blue highlights to tell you what exactly can be hit. Okay. Now, also, I think some people are not liking the fact that Alzor does a blue lightning bolt, as you can see there, rather than yellow, which would give it a bit more thematicness as an Alzor's thunder. And when you finish using the Alzor, it seems to look like it banishes. I think that's a bit weird for a bronze spell. So this must be like just the removal animation they're going for. See how it sort of like goes away, and then that does too when it dies. So this is quite a long animation by the looks of things. It feels long to me. You know, it takes a while. It doesn't just go there or something. So maybe that's something they can improve. But it does feel a little weird looking at it like that. That's the way it dies and goes to the graveyard rather than lifting off the board and going there. But they may have done that because they wanted it to feel more like a battlefield and not have it pick up and go into the graveyard. But I don't know. It's still a card. And I think they are trying to make it look more like a card. So you should treat it like a card and actually put it into the graveyard, in my opinion. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. So we saw some emotes from Philavendrel. You've still got 6 emotes. There's definitely some room for more. There's definitely room for 12 emotes here, and that may be something they're going for. It looks like the emotes are still the same as the ones we've got now, but obviously the most requested ones are hello, sorry, and you know, stuff like that. So we can also see when he uses an emote, his leader actually emotes as well, your leader. So you are supposed to be a leader, and your leader is going to be a bit more animated on the board and stuff like that. And when you get your turn back as well, when the opponent passes, your leader does something too. So here we've got a Manticore Venom. This looks like a gold special card. This seems to do 4 value damage to 3 different units. It's going to hit those 3 units for 4 value, and 1 will survive on 1 health. Okay. Okay, so that was a 12 value gold. That's quite a lot. That's pretty good. And again, if the average engine ends up being 4, that seems like a really good card if they don't start triggering them beforehand. So that was a really powerful gold there. So going back a bit, we can see the Panther is a 3 strength unit down here. Okay, and it has the ability to destroy a unit with 1 power. So that's a 4 strength card, which doesn't seem that good. Now, there might be certain cards that are 1 strength but really powerful, and then destroying it. But then, okay, let's say armor still exists. That might be a really good reason where if it's got loads of armor but it's only 1 strength, you can just kill it with this. Or if you've got a gold card that's really powerful, you can kill it with this. But it's got a reach of 2, so you have to play it on the melee row to reach everywhere onto the opponent's row. But, you know, this seems a little unusual. We'll have to wait and see about more cards to see if there's any 1 strength units that are really worth destroying, rather than just doing something like melee where it does 1 value damage and you can just hit 4 of them. But we'll have to see about that. You can also see the Hawker Smuggler. On turn end, boost a random unit in your hand by 1. So this is an engine card, but it won't gain value on itself. This will be basically the Dragoons, isn't it? But we've seen a lot of cards so far which can do 4 damage. So this is probably quite a vulnerable card. It does seem, though, that it's clearly the more damage you do, the less value on the card you have. So, but that is like an engine card, and Malayan will be able to deal with that. So 4 damage seems okay. I think there's probably going to be some cards which that won't be able to deal with. And the Half-Elf Hunter has the primary tag of Elf as well. On turn end, so another engine card by the looks of things, boosts Self by 1 if there's an unrevealed trap on the row. So you might be able to get this to 5 strength. It looks like it was 3 strength. We know it's 3 strength. So unless there's a lot of traps on the row already, we haven't actually seen any traps in this particular gameplay clip, which is actually surprising. But it could get to 4 straight away. But again, Malayan will deal with it. The Blue Mountain Elite will be able to deal with it as well if it's the only unit on the row. So again, we're starting to see some more abilities from these cards and the values between them, and how easy or hard these engine cards are to play with the removal that we've seen as well. Okay, we can also see Yennefer of Vengerberg. She is a 2 strength gold. I expect neutral. You can tell it's neutral, in fact, because of the colour of that. Scoia'tael ones are green and stuff. She has a deployability. Melee, if placed on the melee row, she damages all of her units by 2. And if it's on range, she boosts all units. So the same kind of concept, but now it's split between melee and range. So if you fill up the range row, you won't be able to boost. So just be aware of that. And she doesn't spawn the unicorn, because we saw earlier the unicorn is its own unit now. Really nice visual effect there. That was quite quick. It was quite impactful. I think it was quite good. When you win, you leader emotes and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Nice analysis, KBT.